Confidence in intimacy is never about loud words or showing off strength in public. It's revealed in the quiet, vulnerable moments when a man chooses to give pleasure without hesitation. When a man lowers his pride and goes down on a woman, he communicates that he has no shame in honoring her body. He is saying, I am comfortable enough with myself to focus entirely on you. That act alone separates the insecure from the powerful, because true confidence doesn't fear closeness, it embraces it. The tongue becomes an instrument of trust, and the willingness to use it speaks louder than any compliment whispered in her ear. A man who licks a woman's vagina without holding back is not only connecting physically, he's declaring that he values her desires as much as his own. This is where masculinity matures, shifting from selfish conquest to genuine partnership. Instead of rushing toward his own climax, he slows down and sinks into her, choosing to experience her pleasure as a priority. That decision requires strength, not weakness, because it's much easier for a man to chase his release than to surrender to hers. The boldness lies in proving that giving pleasure is as fulfilling as receiving it. Every movement of his mouth shows something deeper about who he is. A man who takes his time, who listens to her moans, who adjusts his pace to the rhythm of her breathing, proves he has awareness and self-control. It's not about technique alone, it's about presence. He isn't lost in his own head. He's attuned to her body like it's speaking a language only he understands. That sensitivity requires a man who is grounded, patient, and unafraid of intimacy. In that moment, his ego melts. What remains is raw connection. When a woman feels a man confidently worship her through oral sex, she feels seen, desired, and valued. She realizes she doesn't have to hide or apologize for her needs because his actions tell her they are worthy. That reassurance becomes powerful, not just for her orgasm, but for her emotional safety. A man who does this confidently builds her trust, not by promising her the world, but by proving through action that he honors her body and her pleasure. This is why women often describe oral sex done with care as more intimate than penetration. It's a gift, not a demand. Confidence is also revealed in the absence of hesitation. A man who doesn't flinch, who doesn't treat oral sex as a chore or an obligation, shows that he is secure in his masculinity. He doesn't see it as degrading, he sees it as elevating. This act says, "Your pleasure is my pride." That mindset is rare because it requires a man who isn't threatened by vulnerability, who doesn't measure his worth only by dominance. Instead, he measures it by how deeply he can make her feel, how powerfully he can connect her body and soul. And in truth, women know the difference between a man who does it out of duty and a man who does it with passion. The confident man brings no hesitation, no reluctance, no insecurity into the act. He brings hunger, curiosity, and joy. His tongue becomes a declaration, his lips a promise, and his focus an offering. This is why confidence in oral sex is not simply a skill. It's a reflection of a man's essence, his depth and his courage to put her at the center of intimacy. When a man chooses to prioritize a woman's orgasm through oral sex, he is making a statement that goes far beyond the physical. He is telling her that her needs matter, that her body is not just a playground for his desire, but a temple he respects. Respect in intimacy is not about words, it's about actions. And one of the clearest actions is when he slows down, takes his time, and dedicates himself to her pleasure. This is not just lust. It is reverence. Lust may fuel the fire. Respect is what keeps that fire burning without burning her out. The act of giving oral sex with genuine focus shows that he sees her as an equal, not as an accessory. Too many men rush. Too many men make intimacy about their own release, forgetting that sex is a shared language, not a one-sided performance. A man who takes his time to lick her, to listen to her reactions, to wait until her body trembles with satisfaction, is a man who has learned patience. That patience is rooted in respect, because he is not just chasing his moment, he is honoring hers. He knows her pleasure is not optional, it is essential. Respect in oral sex is also about how he approaches her body. A man who respects her doesn't just dive in carelessly, he studies her, he learns her, he pays attention to the small details. He respects that every woman is different, that every clitoris is unique, and that every rhythm of breath is a signal. He doesn't assume, he explores. This is where lust transforms into artistry, because lust alone may make him eager, but respect makes him careful, gentle, and precise. This care is what separates a selfish lover from a generous one. A woman can feel the difference immediately. When a man respects her pleasure, his tongue doesn't rush to finish. It lingers to understand. He doesn't just use her body for his thrill, he uses his body to awaken hers. That kind of respect creates safety. It tells her she doesn't need to hide her moans, or hold back her release, or pretend she's satisfied. She knows she is allowed to feel fully, loudly, unapologetically. That freedom is born out of his respect, because she senses that he is there for her, not just for himself. This respect builds intimacy beyond the bedroom. A man who prioritizes her orgasm is saying that her happiness matters in every space, just between the sheets. If he listens to her body in sex, he is more likely to listen to her words in life. If he gives her time to climax, he is more likely to give her patience in conflict. Respect is not fragmented, it flows through everything. Oral sex becomes a mirror, reflecting how he values her as a whole person, not just as a body to satisfy his desire. The difference between lust and respect is subtle but powerful. Lust is about hunger, respect is about reverence. Lust fades quickly after release, but respect builds trust that lingers long after the act. When he licks her with both passion and respect, she feels cherished in a way that penetrates deeper than sex. It penetrates her soul. This is why women often remember not just the orgasm, but the way he made them feel during it. Respect, in this intimate act, is the proof of true masculinity, because only a strong man knows how to kneel without losing his power. A man's tongue tells a story that words cannot, and when it comes to oral sex, it becomes the clearest display of his emotional intelligence. Who truly knows how to please a woman with his mouth is not just performing an act, he is reading her, feeling her, listening to the unspoken signals her body gives. Emotional intelligence and intimacy is about sensing, adapting, and responding, and oral sex is the perfect stage where this plays out. His tongue is not moving randomly. It is following the cues of her sighs, her gasps, the subtle arch of her back. This is the art of presence, and only a man who is emotionally tuned and can do it well. When he places his mouth on her, he is stepping into a space of deep vulnerability for both of them. A woman's vagina is not just physical. It holds her emotions, her insecurities, her rawest self. A man who is emotionally intelligent understands this. He knows that if she feels tense, he must slow down. If she breathes heavily, he must lean in deeper. He doesn't push her body into his rhythm. He allows her body to guide him into hers. This is where oral sex becomes more than an act of pleasure. It becomes an act of communication, where he speaks without words and listens without ears. Emotional intelligence also shows in the patience he brings to the act. A man without this awareness rushes, thinking that faster is better, harder is stronger. But the man who understands her knows that pleasure is layered, that arousal is built, and that her climax is a journey, not a race. His tongue slows, then speeds, then pauses, testing her responses. He checks her breathing, the trembling in her thighs, the pressure of her hands against his head. He is fluent in her body language, and that fluency makes him unforgettable. Because what he gives is not mechanical. It is deeply personal, tailored to her in that very moment. The emotional connection he establishes in oral sex is also about reassurance. His movements tell her, I am here for you, I want you to feel good, I see you. That reassurance allows her to let go, to stop holding back, to surrender fully to the experience. A woman can only reach her deepest orgasms when she feels safe, and emotional intelligence is the key to unlocking that safety. His tongue becomes a promise of care, his lips a sign of devotion, his every adjustment a demonstration that he values her comfort and her climax above his pride. That is why women often describe oral sex from an attentive man as addictive, because it's not just physical pleasure, it's emotional fulfillment. A man's ability to use his tongue with sensitivity is directly tied to his awareness of emotions outside of sex. The same skills that make him great at oral sex, patience, adaptability, presence, and attention, are the ones that make him a great partner in life. He doesn't force, he doesn't assume, he doesn't ignore, he learns, he listens, he responds. Is emotional intelligence in its purest, most intimate form. And in the way he moves between her legs, he reveals the depth of his capacity to connect not just with her body, with her entire being. Men who understand the art of oral sex know something most others don't. Intimacy is a two-way exchange, and the deepest bonds are built when both partners feel fully satisfied. When a man dedicates himself to her orgasm, he is not just giving pleasure, he is creating trust. A woman who feels safe, desired, and honored in bed carries that energy into every part of the relationship. She feels more open, more giving, more connected, because she knows her needs matter. This is why men who prioritize oral sex often find their relationships stronger and more passionate, because they've unlocked the truth that giving creates receiving. When a woman experiences a man going down on her with genuine passion, she doesn't just feel physical stimulation, she feels chosen. She realizes that he is not rushing to his own climax, but slowing down to make her the center of attention. That sacrifice of ego for intimacy builds a bond she cannot ignore. Her body relaxes, her heart opens, and her mind lets go of the walls it may have built from past disappointments. The man who gives like this becomes unforgettable, because he has shown her through action that her pleasure is not a side note, it is the main event. This kind of selfless giving changes how she sees him outside the bedroom as well. She begins to trust his patience, to respect his effort, and to feel safe in his presence. Why? Because if he listens to her moans, he will likely listen to her words. If he waits for her orgasm, he will likely wait for her growth in other areas of life. Oral sex becomes a symbol of his overall approach to love, patient, attentive, generous, and for women, creates a depth of connection that casual lovers can never provide. The truth is, a woman remembers the man who makes her body sing, but she treasures the man who makes her body and soul feel seen. Selfless oral sex does this by making her feel like her satisfaction is the priority, not an afterthought. Act tells her she is valued not just for her body's availability, but for her body's experience. This message sinks deep into her psyche, making her more willing to trust, to commit, to give back in ways that elevate the entire relationship. The man who gives in bed plants seeds of loyalty, devotion, and admiration. The bond created through this level of intimacy is not fragile. It becomes the foundation of long-lasting passion. Many men fear that focusing on her takes away from their own pleasure. The opposite is true. When a woman is fully satisfied, when she feels deeply pleasured, her energy shifts. She becomes more affectionate, more confident, and more excited to return the same level of passion. The selfless man doesn't lose by giving, he gains because her desire for him only grows stronger. This is how selfless oral sex turns a moment of passion into a lifelong bond. When a man avoids going down on a woman, it says far more about him than it does about her. Many women blame themselves, wondering if their body is the problem, but the truth is, avoidance exposes his own insecurities. A confident man embraces intimacy without fear, while an insecure one hides from it. He may mask it with excuses, claiming it's not his thing, or that he doesn't like the taste, but underneath those excuses lies discomfort with vulnerability. Oral sex demands closeness, patience, and surrender. And some men simply lack the confidence to give that level of attention. Refusal to engage in oral sex often reveals immaturity. It shows he is stuck in a self-centered mindset where sex is only about his release, not about shared pleasure. Such men usually focus on penetration alone, thinking that's enough to satisfy a woman. But women's bodies are layered, complex, and most require more than penetration to reach climax. A man who avoids her pleasure zones shows he hasn't grown into an understanding of real intimacy. His immaturity blinds him to the truth that true sexual connection is built on giving as much as receiving, on listening as much as leading. This avoidance also uncovers a lack of emotional confidence. To go down on a woman is to place yourself in a position of service, and for some men that feels threatening. They fear losing control, fear the vulnerability of focusing entirely on her. Instead of embracing that intimacy, they retreat into dominance, keeping the act of sex one-sided. That reveals not strength but weakness. A man who refuses to go down is saying, I am not comfortable enough with myself to honor you fully. That insecurity doesn't just live in the bedroom. It bleeds into how he communicates, commits, connects in the rest of the relationship. Women can feel this hesitation instantly. A man who avoids oral sex sends the message that her pleasure is secondary, that her needs are negotiable. She may try to excuse it, telling herself that maybe he just doesn't know how, but deep down she feels the dismissal. Over time, this chips away at trust and desire. A woman who isn't given the freedom to feel fully pleasured begins to feel unworthy, and that unworthiness turns into resentment. His avoidance, rooted in insecurity, becomes the silent poison that kills intimacy and connection. The irony is that the very thing insecure men fear, losing control, is the very thing that creates true power in intimacy. A man who avoids oral sex because of pride or shame doesn't realize he is weakening his own presence. Instead of being remembered as passionate and attentive, he is remembered as selfish and disconnected. His refusal tells her that he is more concerned with protecting his ego than exploring her body. And once she sees that truth, she knows his avoidance is not about her, it's about him. His fears fear his weakness and his inability to give without holding back. When oral sex is performed with genuine passion, transforms from a simple act of pleasure into something deeply healing. A man who takes his time, who uses his mouth with focus and devotion, is doing more than stimulating her body. He is soothing her emotions, calming her mind, and strengthening her confidence. Every lick, every kiss, every tender motion becomes a reminder that she is worthy of being adored. This act is powerful because it allows her to feel both desired and safe at the same time. Sense of safety is what unlocks her ability to release fully, to let go of tension, and to experience intimacy not just as sex but as therapy for her soul. The healing power of oral sex comes from the way it slows down time. In those moments, she doesn't feel rushed, judged, or pressured. She feels seen. A man who dedicates himself to her in this way is saying, "You matter. Your pleasure matters." That message seeps deep into her subconscious, undoing the negative stories she may have carried about her body or her worth. Many women walk through life with insecurities, scars from partners who made them feel less than enough. When a man worships her through oral sex, he rewrites that narrative, proving with his actions that her body deserves celebration, not criticism. Oral sex, when given selflessly, also becomes a source of empowerment. It gives her permission to embrace her sexuality without shame, to moan without fear, to release without guilt. The man who honors her this way encourages her to step into her own sensual power. This is why women often describe the experience as not only physical but deeply emotional. It reawakens a part of them that feels alive, confident, and unapologetically feminine. Empowerment is healing in itself because it dismantles the barriers of self-doubt that society, and sometimes past lovers, may have built around her pleasure. Beyond the emotional, there are physical healing effects as well. The deep arousal and release triggered through oral sex lowers stress levels, balances hormones, and strengthens the immune system. The body releases endorphins and oxytocin, the same hormones linked to love and bonding, which flood her with feelings of joy and security. A man who prioritizes this act is not only making her feel good in the moment, he is contributing to her overall wellness. This is why it is often described as medicine for the relationship, keeps her vibrant, happy, and deeply connected to him. And at the core of it all, oral sex done with true passion shows her that she has a sanctuary in his presence. She knows she can be vulnerable, raw, and unfiltered, and instead of being judged, she will be cherished. His tongue becomes an instrument of both desire and healing, reminding her that intimacy is not something to fear, but something to celebrate. In his mouth, she finds pleasure, yes, but she also finds restoration, a release of emotional weight, the reassurance that she is loved in the most intimate and unselfish way possible.